Hello and welcome everybody in this weekly reunion of Universal Human Value eSIP follow-up. Namaste Arjun ji. अर्जुन भैया
नमस्ते भैया।
नमस्ते या वसंती
नमस्ते।
दीदी नमस्ते नमस्ते जी भैया हम शुरू कर सकते हैं अर्जुन भैया।
हाँ जी।
काफी साथी हमारे जुड़ भी चुके हैं तो सभी का स्वागत है जी। वसंती दीदी नमस्ते जी। तो ओवर टू यू अर्जुन भैया। नमस्ते।
Namaste. Good evening, everyone. So last time it was discussed about harmony. It was discussed about the self and the body as the human being as coexistence of self and body. So in this session, we want to go into a little bit more detail about how we can look at the harmony in the self, understand harmony in the self. So again, to recap, um, we've seen that our basic human aspiration is of continuous happiness and prosperity. So that's what we are looking for, actually. Even without knowing, sometimes we are still making so much of effort and so much of, we're doing so many things with the basic aspiration of being happy all the time and being prosperous. So at the base, that's what we want, and then that's what it looks like. Like we are making different efforts in that pursuit. So if we look at how to fulfill this basic aspiration, then here we have one proposal about what you could have as a program for the fulfillment, which would be understanding harmony and living in harmony at all the four levels of our being. So to start with, it would be to first, once we have seen that the human being is coexistence of self and body, then next we want to see how to maintain or how to look at how to understand harmony in the human being. So we can break it into two parts to understand. We can focus on the self right now, and in the next session we can focus on the body, and then again we can um, bring them together, because like the human being is a coexistence of both of these aspects, so they're not separate from each other, because that's the thing with the human being, that these both are there inside us. So we want to just explore this through the process which we've been following from the beginning, which is that we'll just state different proposals and then you can verify it on the basis of your natural acceptance. And then whatever conclusion comes, that will be something which is a conclusion for yourself, which is based on experiential validation rather than on some kind of a theory or some kind of idea or something. It should be something which is coming from within you. So for that, what we usually do for verifying is we use our faculty of natural acceptance so that we get the right answer. So this is a recap. If there's any question or any comment before we go ahead, we uh, can take that up.
Hey, Namaste Arjun.
Namaste.
So I'll request the participants. They may raise their hands so that we can communicate with Arjun Bhaiya. So any of the participants, any of the students, if they would like to ask something regarding the same. Yes, I can see Rupali ji. Namaste Rupali ji.
Yeah, namaste, Arjun Bhaiya and Didi. I just want to ask, suppose if students ask us that you are saying self, so what does this self means? Is it a soul or it is mind or what is it? What should be our answer?
Right now, it will be more complicated to try to explain in abstract terms, like because soul and all these words also,
Yeah.
at this point, we've not defined them or we've not gone into
Yeah.
what is there inside those words. So
Yeah.
instead of that, it's actually better to just look at it as, if they ask if it is mind or not, you can say that mind is a part of the self, but the self is more than just the mind.
Okay.
But
Okay.
the way that you could explain is by showing these things, that there's something called self, which
Hmm.
needs happiness, which needs respect. There's a part of us which is
Mm-hmm.
wants these feelings.
Okay.
When we compare with the body, then it becomes very clear that the body doesn't want these feelings. The body is
Yeah.
something which is a material thing, right? So
Yeah.
body needs physical facility, and like if we see this table, then it is
Mm-hmm.
much easier to explain rather than trying to relate with other concepts which are not defined.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. Okay. So self is something, which has some wants of happiness and prosperity. Body doesn't have wants of happiness and prosperity, something like that. But it's neither a soul nor mind, but it is something like you feel that can be the answer. Like,
we don't have to say it's neither soul nor mind, because that would
okay.
also not be right.
Okay.
The mind is a part of the self,
Okay.
and the soul has a whole different definition which we won't get into right now because it'll become confusing.
Okay. Fine. Huh.
The mind is one of
Okay.
the
Part of the
one of the parts of the self,
self. Okay.
and
Fine.
various activities are going on in the self,
Hmm.
which we'll discuss today. Like this, in this table also you can see that it's written imagination is going
Yeah.
on inside
Yeah.
the. So
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, so we will go
Okay.
into a little bit of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Anything else? Any comments also? Doesn't have to be question. It could be anything. And then we'll go more into the self. What exactly is going on in the self? But can you see the difference between the needs of the self and the needs of the body? Between uh, the nature of how, I mean, like the characteristics of the self versus the characteristics of the body. Like, can you see that the activities of the self are going on continuously? We're always thinking of something or imagining something, or we have some desire. We might not actively be thinking about our desire also right now, but then many times all those things will be there, and then on that basis we have a certain kind of behavior, or we have a certain kind of action which we do, right? And if you look at how the needs of the self are fulfilled, we are saying that the needs of the self are fulfilled by right understanding and right feeling. The needs of the body are fulfilled by physical things, physiochemical things. Like food is physiochemical, some kind of chemistry is there in it. Anything which we look at in the physical world, like how we say this transformation of energy and all that, that's all physiochemical. Whereas when we're talking about right understanding, right feeling, then it's not something physical, it's something different, right? Can we see the difference between these two things? If there's any hand raised, we can. There are one or two hands raised, right?
जी सर, नमस्ते सर.
Namaste.
Sir, I am Vikas Jainkiri from Basveshwar Engineering College. I just wanted to know if we consider an instant when somebody, let us say, let me assume myself. I come from college, fully involved in college, and my body is fully involved in the college work. Then there was a restless work in the college. Let us suppose, assume that. And then when I come back to home, I'll be a little bit disturbed. And my self will be disturbed, isn't it? If my
Right.
mind is disturbed, it means my self is disturbed. So what is the connection between, at that instant of time, the need for body is the rest. And if I am not providing any rest to that body, then myself will be disturbed. So what is your comment on this, sir?
So when we look at the body, I mean, when we look at these both together, then we look at the needs of the self, needs of the body, and then one of the needs is also to do with taking care of the body. So the self has the capacity to have the whole responsibility for the body, like whether to wake up at this time, whether to wake up early or late, it is decided by the self, and the action is fulfilled by the body. I mean, the action is done by the body, right? Like if you decide, if yourself is deciding that we'll wake up at say 5 a.m., then the body is waking up. But then if the self decides that let's go back to sleep for another 20 minutes, so the self is again deciding, not the body. So when we look at the self and the body, then the self is the one that has the capacity to be responsible for the body. So if the self is disturbed, then I mean, that is because of something which is not fulfilled in the self. That right understanding is not complete in the self, or there's not the right feeling in the self at that time. And because of that, the self is disturbed, right? So that can be fulfilled with right understanding. And the body, of course, it needs rest at that time. So again, the self is the one who has to instruct the body to take rest. So as you can see here, like we are just trying to demonstrate that the self has the power and the body is like the instrument which fulfills whatever the self wants it to do. So was that clear, or something else?
I was just waiting for you to complete your words. Yes, sir, I understand that, but some people, maybe in my family and all, maybe some people require some kind of rest at that time, at that instant of time. Suppose say if I ask them something else, suppose say they also have come back from the office or some kind of workplace, and their body would have been requiring some kind of rest. And if suppose at that instant of time, if somebody else asks them to do some kind of work at that time, the person who is requiring the rest, maybe at that instant of time, maybe even if they have the right understanding, and that self is also asking for the or dictating that body to take rest, maybe some kind of circumstances at that instant of time, if suppose that body doesn't get maybe because of some other kind of issues also, maybe they have to work some more time in the home also, maybe like cooking and all. And at that instant of time, uh, if suppose they don't want to what you can say, if suppose they don't want to make themselves to be unhappy, then also they become unhappy because of this issue, isn't it, sir? That's what my view. Even
Okay.
if they have right understanding, then also they are instructing the body to take rest, and that self also know that this body require rest, but that circumstance is not allowing to take the rest, isn't it? That's what this is what I wanted to propose here. uh, in that kind of.
Yeah, I got the question. So
Yes,
basically,
sir.
there'll be various kinds of situations, right? That is one part of it. But linking that with our, our action doesn't have to be in this way. Like we can first separate them and see. Like if we look at the situation looks favorable for you or unfavorable for you. That way you can see. And if it is unfavorable also, then the self is the one who has to choose whether to give rest to the body, or if there's some bigger purpose which it has to fulfill, for which it can, postpone that giving rest. Like, for example, if that work has to be done and if the self is feeling that, that work is more important to maintain the harmony in the family, then that will take priority, and the body will be secondary. I mean, the body will take second place that way, the rest to the body. So then the self will decide to do that work so that the harmony in the family is maintained, or whatever that work was completed. And then after that, the self can take rest. I mean, the self can instruct the body to take rest. So the self has the full choice. All the time, the choice is there, regardless of whatever the situation is. Because many times, our situations which we come across may not be so favorable. But at those instants, we can still check if we have the choice or not. And we will notice that we always have the choice. Sometimes it's just a little bit more uncomfortable to take certain decisions because you have this dilemma, right? Because on one hand, you want to sleep, it's very late, and you want to sleep because you want to give the body rest. But on the other hand, there's something important which you have to do, which the self has to decide whether that is more important at that time or not, and then take a decision. And many times you can communicate these things with the family members, and then therefore come to a solution which is favorable for more of the people, and that way it becomes much easier to handle all these situations which seem to be tough situations also.
G. Maybe that kind of to think like that also, one should have a very high ability to make the right evaluation, right understanding and all. That is not so easy job, sir. I think so. Maybe we have attended that UHV course and all. We can do that. But however, we cannot expect the same thing from others, isn't it?
Right. So we are not expecting, right? We don't have to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Maybe they all have to attend this UHV course, then everything will be in harmony.
No,
Yes,
that's
sir.
also an expectation, right? That's something which you want from the other. So whenever you put your um, thing on the other, then it's much more difficult, because then you're trying to fix the outside. It's like if you're saying that the world should be in harmony, I am in harmony, but the world is not in harmony, then it's a very difficult
Something like that.
situation. So rather than that, we can look at how we can be in harmony, and then when we are in harmony with whatever level of understanding we have, we can help the others also to reach that level of understanding, and also at the same time learn from others who have more understanding. So that way we never feel that we cannot do anything also, and we also take responsibility for the way that we react or respond to the situation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So it's
Okay,
true
sir.
that,
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes,
true
sir.
that
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
it may be difficult in different ways based on however we are perceiving that situation. If we perceive that situation as easy to deal with situation, then it will be much easier. But if we perceive it as a very difficult situation, then we'll find it harder to cope with that, right? So all that is still to do
Yes.
with right understanding, because based on that we can put everything in the right perspective and see clearly what our basic aspiration is, and link everything with that. Link it with these three things: physical facility as the third, and then relationship as the second, and right understanding as the first priority. So we can look at it, we can explore, we don't have to conclude at this point. We can just keep it open. So now we'll look at the activities of the self. So what exactly is going on? Instead of trying to define what exactly the self is, we are trying to look at the characteristics and look at the activities, so that it's not just a word. Because with a word, it's very hard to explain something which has so much of so much is going on, right? So it's like how ma'am was mentioning about like soul and such words, they become very abstract because different people associate with different meanings, and based on whatever their assumption about that is from before, that thought gets reinforced, that meaning gets reinforced. So when we look at imagination, there's something going on inside, right? Which we can break up into these different things. That we have desires, there are thoughts, there are expectations. So let's look at all these three things. That we have desires, right? We have a desire to, like whatever your desire may be. So many desires may be there, right? You may have a desire to get a job which pays a certain amount. You might have a desire to have harmony in the family, not have any fight in the family ever. You might have desire um, to spend a couple of hours every day with the family. You might have desire to go for a movie with friends. So like that, you could have various desires, right? So that is what a desire is. And then based on that desire, you get so many thoughts. Like you got, suppose you got a desire to go to a restaurant, then you'll get so many thoughts about planning, right? Planning it out. In your head, you're planning out that, okay, on this day we'll go to this place, and then, you know, we'll go with these people. So we'll invite these people, we'll call them. And all this planning is going on. So all this is part of your thoughts, right? All these are individual thoughts which are adding up, and they're triggered by this desire. So one desire triggers so many thousands of thoughts. So if you have lots of desires, then obviously you'll have lots of thoughts. For each desire, you want to fulfill those desires. So then on that basis, you have lots of thoughts. And then based on those thoughts, you have expectations also, right? So all this is going on in your imagination. If you just look at your imagination, try to pay attention to what exactly is going on in your imagination, then you'll see all these things are happening. So can you break it into these three things and see whether you're able to see all these things, or if you're able to see only that thoughts are there, or if you're not able to see anything going on, you're just feeling that it's impulsive action. Whenever something happens, you just decide at that time, and then you make the action. So we'll want to hear from everyone about how it is. I mean, if you're able to see this happening like this, or anything else, any other comments, or how exactly it happens, what exactly is going on in the imagination.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, every time some thoughts are going on in the mind. I mean, the mind, to keep mind empty is very difficult, or to keep self empty is very difficult. So yes, we can see all these three things, that is desire and the thoughts coming out of it, and expectations, and all these things. They do happen continuously in oneself.
True. And if we pay attention to it, then we notice that based on our imagination, this whole cluster of all these things, based on all this, we have a certain kind of behavior, and we take certain decisions about work also. What kind of work we decide to do, what kind of behavior we have outside. That is all reflected by what is happening inside. As in, like, it's quite obvious, right, that when you think of something and you want it, then you expect it also, and then you make effort for it also. So that shows up in your behavior, and then that effort happens outside, which is in the form of work. So you can see that whatever is happening inside is, deciding what you are doing outside. So whatever you're doing outside is not independent of what is happening inside. So if you look at this whole content of imagination, all these desires can be triggered via three sources, or they can be uh, three things motivating, three different kinds of factors or things which motivate these desires. So one of them is preconditioning, or something which is to do with assumptions. Second is sensations, and third is natural acceptance. So we look at all these three. First, we'll just want to ask a few people what is their desire. Then it will be easier to, with some examples of real examples of people, we'll be able to look at where it's coming from, whether it's coming from preconditioning or sensation or natural acceptance. So that will make it easier to understand this thing. So if anyone wants to share one or two of their desires, then we can see.
Yeah, I can share one desire. My son is right now in ninth standard, so he's going to be in 10th, and I want that he get good marks so that he gets admission in good college, whatever course he wants.
Okay. So you want to have, you want your son to get into a good college, right? That's what is.
Yeah, yes.
And then if we ask why do you want that to happen? Why?
Uh,
It might
because
look
I
like a
want,
very like a baseless question, but then once we really look at, when we try to really explore, then we come to the real reasons of why we want to do things, and then as we go deeper and deeper, we then come to know where it's coming from. Yeah.
yeah. So if he gets admission in good college at the level of 11th, then he will be into the contact of good students who study uh, better, and then 12th he can uh, get good marks in entrance exams, and then he can go for a good course after 12th. The thought, and once he gets a degree, he will be like independent and will be at least earning for himself, so that we are he will be happy in life.
Okay. So we are trying to link the degree with the next step, which is going to be some kind of a job, and then that job we're trying to link with wealth or money, and then that money we're trying to link with independence and happiness, right? That's the whole flow of events if you look
Yeah,
at
yes, yes.
it. So without verifying all these things, we have kept them as an assumption that once we have that kind of a job, then everything will be fine and he would be happy. So this desire could be coming from preconditioning, which is an assumption which we have that if somebody gets a certain kind of a job which pays a certain kind of amount, then it leads to independence and money. This is an assumption. So on that basis, we are taking all these decisions. So
Yes, it is
that,
out of preconditioning. Yeah.
yeah, so that's how you come to know where the desire is coming from. So that was a one example. We can see some more examples also, because it's worthwhile to know where the things are coming from, so that uh, we can analyze properly and then you know come to some conclusion. So would anyone else like to share any desire? so that we can trace the whole thing and see where it's coming from.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, sir. The thing is that now we are able to distinguish between preconditioning, sensation, and right understanding.
Okay.
Right. So even though our intention is to stay happy in continuity, we are under the precondition that it is not a reality. Happiness is momentary. So now we are able to relate it to sensation. If
True.
I eat good food like that. So
True.
the thing is that is it wrong to have the sensation that I want to eat a good food?
Okay, so there's nothing about wrong and right in this decision, but if we are expecting the sensation to give continuous happiness,
Now
then
we are able
know
to
that it
distinguish between what is sensation, what is happiness in continuity. If we stay in harmony with the body, self, and relationships and society, then that universal human values will be going on. So working towards more physical resources to satisfy these sensations. Let us say, I want to travel more, I want to see more places, then I want to eat good food. I know very well that, now I know very well that it will not happen in continuity. So the distinction we are able to make, what is precondition, what is right understanding, what is sensation. So wanting more physical resources is not wrong. It is leading to prosperity. If it is on my own, if I want more for such and such reason, self has to, not in comparison with other selves. So that distinction we are able to make, but acquiring physical resources in my capacity to fulfill my sensation, is it wrong?
again, it's not something which is about right and wrong. It's something
Okay.
about understanding so that we make our roadmap properly. Because
Yeah.
we feel that acquiring more physical facility is going to lead to prosperity, then we'll
Okay.
keep doing that, right? We'll keep doing that. And
Yeah.
without any limit, because we won't know where the limit, how
Yes,
much
yes.
will lead to the prosperity.
Okay.
So when we have that assumption that more physical facility is going to lead to prosperity, then
That
then
prosperity
that
is nurturing one more self who is deprived of certain things. So
prosperity just means that we have the feeling that we have more than required.
and that's what we are having more than what we are required, so that we can nurture one more self who is deprived.
Yeah, you can
Sorry.
do that also. But the point is that more physical facility, there's a strong assumption which is that more physical facility would lead to prosperity. But
No, that distinction we are able to make. More
Okay.
physical facility will lead to ultimate happiness. That is a precondition or whatever it is, that we are able to make a distinction. So why I am asking this many questions is, when I put the proposal in front of either my colleagues or with my students, so I should be able to distinguish. Should we not earn more? If we earn more, should I hold hands with other deprived persons? What is the right calculation of more physical resources? Where do I put the full stop? Or where do I see that I should not go for better job? I should not switch over the jobs, like that.
Okay, so first of all, we don't want to limit our, um, what do you call, like our ambition or something, right? Some people,
Yes.
some people try to look at it as limiting our ambition or limiting our idea or something. But instead of that, you can just look at it as rightly evaluating it rather than limiting. Because when we try to do anything, when we try to limit anything, then it makes us feel deprived. It doesn't make us feel prosperous. Like if we try to say that I want to have only one pair of clothes,
Yeah.
that's enough to cover the body. Then, if I want more, then then there's a problem. Then I want more. So that's not the thing. The thing is whether you want one pair or 10 pairs or 100 pairs, if you're able to see that, there's a certain, if you're able to identify how much we need,
Yes.
then once we reach that 100 pairs also, we won't keep looking for that physical facility.
Okay.
We'll say that we have more than enough. We'll feel that we have more than enough. And therefore, that won't be always on the mind, right? It won't be something disturbing which is a hindrance to our happiness.
Right.
So whether we want 1 or 10 or 100, that is not the question. The question is whether we are able to see that physical facility doesn't lead to happiness. This is a
Yes.
proposal. We don't have to accept or reject right now. We can just explore for ourselves and
Yes.
see whether that physical facility, how much of it is required and whether it actually leads to happiness or not.
Yes.
Suppose we got how much we wanted. Just imagine that state and just imagine if everything would be fine at that point, or it would just be more comfort and more convenience, but the happiness state might be the same. We can just explore this, we can just think about it and see. So right now we don't have to conclude.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. So this assumption is quite strong that physical facility will lead to happiness. But we ourselves have not decided how much physical facility we need for that happiness, right? Many times we have this assumption that um, only through college education can be done. Somebody can't do education in the village or at home or in a different situation. Or there might be an assumption that to earn money you have to go to college. So many assumptions might be there which we have not verified as such. We're just taking those because we have that kind of a belief. Those beliefs may be different from person to person. And that also depends on what all impressions we've got, what all we've heard before, what all we've concluded before based on other assumptions. So we have so many assumptions. Based on those assumptions, we've concluded certain things. And based on those conclusions, which have not been verified, we are again making more assumptions, right? So all this is one of the major sources of desires, that we are desiring things because we assume that it will lead to happiness. Because what we eventually want is that continuity of happiness and prosperity, right? That we can see clearly, that that's what we want. But somewhere we are not able to link this continuous happiness with what we are actually thinking, what we are deciding in our mind. So these preconditionings are assumptions or beliefs which we've kept inside us without verifying them. And on the other hand, if we refer to our natural acceptance, then that is a source within us, which, as we said, it always gives the right answer and it is universal. So if our desire is coming from there, then it is something which can actually lead to continuous happiness and prosperity. If it's coming from any of the other two, then it can lead to only temporary happiness. Like with the sensation, if somebody wants to eat tasty food, or somebody wants to travel the world, or somebody wants to, um, you know, any sensation when you look at. Sensation to travel the world could be for sight, favorable sight, like tourist attraction kind of thing, or it could be various reasons, but it's again something to do with the senses, right? When we say tasty food, it's to do with the sensation of the do you call it? Taste sensation. So like that, when it's to do with any of these things, we can notice that that sensation is there for some time, and then after that it's not there. And then when it's not there, again we want to have that sensation again. So therefore we need to again go after that, again go for the tourism, or again go to the restaurant just to get that sensation again. And then again it's there for some time during that short time, and then after that again it's gone. And every time it goes, the desire to have it again becomes stronger and stronger. Either it becomes stronger and stronger, or it becomes, if we are not looking at our right understanding, we're not doing some of these things, then it can become stronger, it can stay the same, that we keep having this desire again and again, right? So these two things, preconditioning and sensation, are a source of most of our desires, and therefore, it ends up causing us unhappiness. But if our desires are coming from natural acceptance, of course, even now, our desires are not all coming from 1 and 2. Some of them are coming from 3 also. And how much is coming from 1, how much is coming from 2, how much is coming from 3, that we can look at also. From person to person, it may vary. But if we are, dependent on these two, preconditioning and sensation, then we become very dependent on the outside situations and very dependent on the the flow of events, the circumstances, situations. That becomes the major source of problem also for us. And we get enjoyment also from the outside situations with sensation and all that. So we get this, what someone was saying, right, that we have this thing that we get sometimes happy, sometimes sad. That's because of this, because we get happy. I mean, that happiness is not really happiness, that's excitement. So whenever there's a favorable sensation, or our preconditioning, whatever our preconditioning was, is happening in the outside world, something like that happens, we get a burst of excitement. We feel happy at that moment, but then it goes away because just a few moments after that, we lack that sensation, or our preconditioning is not matching what is happening outside. So whenever they are not matching, then we feel unhappy, or we feel a little bit restless or something. So this is what is happening actually, that we are quite dependent on these two for our happiness, and therefore we never become continuously happy, because it's not possible through these two. On the other hand, if we are referring to our natural acceptance and all our desires are coming from our natural acceptance, then we become self-organized and we become free. We become independent of these two things. So this is where we want to reach. This is the proposal, that this is where we want to reach, where all our desires are coming from our natural acceptance. So if we just look at the content of our imagination, we can come to know how much of what is actually going on. If our thoughts are organized, if our desires are organized, where they're coming from. All this becomes more clear as we explore. So what you can do is to make a list of your desires. That will help to figure out, make a list of the desires, and then also figure out where it's coming from. So since we have time now, it's good to explore a few more desires. Like ma'am had given one desire, I think, of something about a son who was supposed to get a job, get a good college, and then job, and then have independence and something. So what I'm saying is that let's just take a few more desires and then try to analyze and see where they're coming from. So would anyone like to share any of their desires?
Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Namaste. Namaste, Arjun sir. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste, sir.
I'm sorry there is because I'm sitting in the hall where a lot of students are also there. Like no, no, it is really interesting to listen to you because we find you very potential. No, you're looking at your simplification and what I call simplicity and simplification. An elderly person like me, really interested to listen to you, but many a time I miss it because the time 7:30 to 8:30 is our mess time. So normally I miss it often, right? So since now I wanted to ask you this question when you started explaining about the mind and the body. So shall I ask you now? Or?
Sure. Please go ahead.
Okay. See, I don't take it as a some people. I just I mean spell it as a joke, or some people use it as very serious thing that mind and body are separate. See, I do some job. So when I leave my home, I leave my soul at my home, myself at home. I leave my myself at my at home, and office I carry my body. So I mean, you might let us not take it as a joke or sort of thing. Many a person, many a people, many a friends like our colleagues and all that and used to say that myself is at home and body is in the college. So is it is it a just a is there any substance behind somebody spelling that? Because I treat you as a, I know you are a very young social entrepreneur, UHV entrepreneur, and I use the word social. I know because this is a selfless service. That's the reason I use a social entrepreneur. So, do you find any stuff in that somebody saying that no, I leave my home when I leave my home for job, I leave myself at home, and in the office I use my body alone. That is one thing. Second thing is that this is regarding desire. See, like say my distant a sister or son, he wanted to get into a government college, government engineering college. Engineering college. You might ask me now why he wanted to join engineering, why can't he join something else and all the thing. I could tell you the reason why, because he's more logic, and his desire is also as per his natural acceptance. You can verify, it's rational, you can verify it, it is as per all the norms, it is not violating natural acceptance, desiring to join an engineering college through, government engineering college. So but no, he's not getting, and he has completed his 2 attempts and all the thing. Probably he may not be able to join. He has to do something else now. So now the question now is that, is the desire against natural acceptance? Second thing, that why he's so passionate about engineering is that, see, he used to ask me like, no, he when we stand around a bike, you ask me how the motor, how the tires, how the wheels rotate, how the wheels move, you know, what is happening inside, what is the force, where from they get force, and all the things. What is the material they use it? I mean, why the color of the engine is silver? I mean, so many things with the even vehicles also. He asked sometimes you go under the lorry, the lorry is stopped there, and under the lorry and see that what is that the shaft, what is this, how it is connected, what is the joints and all the things. So that way I also don't doubt its what you call logic, and it's desire. I don't doubt its desire. Now uh, let me know what is that. I mean, you are a young person, like, what is that you advise me regarding this? What should I do?
Okay, so to look at the first aspect of this thing of self at home and body at office, we can like look at it a little bit more properly, that the self is the one who is running the body. Like when you're saying I carry my body, so who is that I? That is the self, right? But at the same time, it might be that the feelings, like you're interested in being at home, like what you want is something else, that you want to be at home or you want to be with the family, but then you're going to the office unwillingly just because you want to have that physical facility. So if that was not a motivation, then you would not do that probably. So this just shows that we're doing something unwillingly just because we want to gain something which we feel that it will make us happy, right? We like we want to gain that physical facility and therefore we're going to office, but our interest is in being at home, or our feelings, our thoughts, everything is aligned with home because we want to have that harmony in the family. We're not so interested in the office work, but then we're still going to
I
office.
just wanted a button, because now we were taught, we are all UHV community. We say that, no, I mean, self need not be sandwiched with the body. Self can control the body, and it don't need a space inside the body. It's a consciousness part. It can be anywhere or around the body and all of things. So it can drive. Self can drive the body any to any distance. Distance is not the problem. It can drive the body. Self at home can drive the body. If somebody asks that what is the force driving the body, it is self, but it is at home.
Okay, you mean to say that the self is, I mean, the
It
physical
can be
location
anywhere.
of the
It
self.
can be myself. It can be anywhere, because it need not. Its abode is not inside the body. May not be even around the body, but it has control over the body. Both are related. So that relatedness, distance is not the distance. No, it is not. It hardly
Right.
matters.
So we're saying that the self is, I mean, we're seeing two things, right? That the physical location of the self we're looking at. So that if we are not able to identify, then there's no point of looking at that actually. But when we just see the role of the role of the self is to instruct the body about what to do. Like we can forget about the physical location, whether the self is at home or at some other place or whatever. That is a physical location, right? Instead of looking at that, what we want to look at is the role of the self, that the self is instructing the body to go to office. But the self is also getting thoughts and desires about being at home, about keeping the body at home. But then the self wants the physical facility also, because it assumes that that physical facility is required for the
No,
harmony
that
of
is
the
the
family.
reason. That is the reason self is sending the body to the college, so that now he could I think he could gain. I mean, earn some physical facility, bare minimum physical facility. That might be the reason.
Right. That might be the reason. That must be the reason.
You know, I mean, if somebody see whether it's in the form of a joke or it's in the form of a serious thing, I have seen many people telling that the same thing. Like, no, myself is at home, my body is in the college. So can we validate it? Like, no, yes, it could be possible. Like,
Yes, that could be possible, but then unless we have experienced it, it won't make sense, right? Because it will look illogical or it may not make sense. So uh, rather than focusing on that, it would be more beneficial to focus on what the self can do. Like what is the whole capacity of the self. And when we're taking decisions, when the self is taking the decision of whether to go to that office or not, what to do and all that, then the self has the potential to rightly evaluate how much physical facility is required and how to spend the time, what to instruct the body to do. So all this potential is there in the self. So
Correct,
instead of
correct.
looking at where in the physical, where the self is, instead of looking at that, it would be much more useful to focus on what is the role of the self and what the self can do for the body.
Oh, very nice. So I think what I understand from your side that it is possible. That is what you say, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, if you reach that realization state, it is possible to keep the self at home, and body at office, body working for attainment of the minimum physical facilities, or what you call prosperity, and self doing its work at home only, because it's a conscious part. You don't need any distance and space, distance, time, people, and all the thing. It's not a it's off. It is not required. It is not a factor. It's not a element for them. I mean, for the self.
Right, yeah. So
That's
many things are actually possible, but we have not, I mean, if we look at all of us, none of us have experienced it. So then it looks like it's impossible because we have not experienced, so we assume it's impossible. That's not the thing. It's just that it's something which is not really so important to focus on because it doesn't help
correct.
us much, right now.
Correct, correct. What about my? I take it as I take. I mean, I explore the what you call further. Let me explore I mean, the answer. What you call the response you shared with us. And then
Right.
what about the second
We all
one?
are going
What
to be
about the second
exploring.
one? Like
Yeah, about the second one also, any desire like to get a job or to earn money or any of these things, we can't really say if it's coming from natural acceptance, preconditioning, or sensation without knowing the motivation behind that. Like,
correct.
like for somebody, it may be that you want to go for this, engineering job because you want to earn some money for your family
No,
and you.
it's not. There is no reference to job and money and all the thing. It's a
Okay.
desire. It's a desire,
Yeah.
and that desire we are validating, because we can't just join engineering and find invent that no, I am not potential for that. I don't have the potential for that. I am not capable. I have to change
Right,
it
right.
and
Let
all.
me just finish. Let me just finish. So what I was saying is that, say the desire for engineering, that if we just say that, okay, we have this desire to go for engineering without any other context of job or anything else, we just want to go for engineering. Then if we ask, why do we want to go for engineering? Then suppose it's because, a lot of people are going for it and they say that, you get a good reputation and something like that. Then that something to do with preconditioning. On the other
True.
hand,
That
it could be that you want to go for engineering so that you get a job which gives you, so that you are able to travel the world. Suppose that is your desire, that you want to do engineering so that you get a high paying job and you want to travel the world. And with that traveling the world, I want to watch beautiful sights and all that. So then it gets linked with sensation, the same desire for engineering,
true.
because we've looked at it all the way through. Then we are seeing that, okay, this is linked with sensation because he wants to uh, travel and look at beautiful tourist places, and he wants to try to get happiness out of that. So then it becomes, then the same desire of engineering gets linked with sensation. On the
True.
other hand, suppose your desire is for engineering because that is what looks natural to you in terms of your skills, in
Yeah.
terms of your like you want to do it anyway, like not because other people are doing it, not because you get more income with that, or not because of any of those things, and you don't have anything to do with the sensation also that you're I mean, you might want to earn money. There's no issue with that. But the issue comes when we try to derive continuous happiness through these things. So when we're trying to do that, then there's an issue. Otherwise, of course, you need some money to live, you need some job, you need some career and all that. So then it gets linked with your natural acceptance.
Correct.
So your same desire of engineering could get linked with any of these three things, right?
No,
It
it
depends
is
on,
what we say that as
the
per
whole.
as a third person and as his own desire. It is based. It is not violating natural acceptance.
No.
Violating natural acceptance. So he wanted to be. It's his desire. It is his desire, and it's not against any natural acceptance. Now, thing is that he is not able to get it. So how do we look up in the domain, in our UHV domain? How do we convince our students this? Like, no, he was not able to get it. He was not able to get any admission, maybe through not through this thing, what you call any of the government engineering colleges. So probably he has to join a college where in private, probably he's a rich, he's a poor person, or something like that. So I mean, in this condition, how do we look upon? How do we do that? You know, uh, I mean, how do we rate his what you call as a parent? What I should do? That's what I'm asking.
Okay, so I mean, this is something which can't say clearly about what exactly is the right path or what is the right career for a person. But then basically, when we look at our natural, what do you call, natural skills and all that, then we see some kind of pattern with some people. Like we have an aptitude for something, for some people they have an aptitude for something else. So when they choose that field in which they have an aptitude, then there is more potential and it can be done more easily. Like for example, I did engineering, and then after that I went into music. So even though I did engineering, it was not really like I didn't really have an aptitude for it, but at that time I did it because of preconditioning. At that
Very
time I had the preconditioning that you need to be an engineer or a doctor in order to earn a proper living and in order to all these things. So at that time that was my preconditioning, and then after that I realized that I don't have much aptitude in that. So it was very difficult for me to understand the things and to finish it. And then even though I finished it with good marks and all that, I was not very comfortable with that field because I didn't have that aptitude or that skill set, as they would say. It was not so natural for me to do those things.
understand.
So then everybody has this natural kind of a potential about what job they could be good at or what skill they could be good at naturally.
So
So if
what is
you
the? I think I understood. I shall let me conclude myself. I mean, let me conclude from
yeah,
here. This thing that see the people what they are asking about the vehicle, the movement, the mechanical design, and all the thing. Maybe an expression. It may not be a innate thing, or may not be the real potential, but all the things he's asking how a driver when a driver I mean sitting on the wheel, sitting on the no sitting on a driver when he rotate the wheels and all, how he is able to control the I mean the tire and the wheels, what is inside, what is inside burning in the cylinder, how that is transferred into the shafts, propeller shafts, and all the thing. I mean, axle shafts and all the thing. When how the vehicle is, how the vehicle and the vehicle is. I mean, stopped or braked and all the thing. All this could be an expression, may not be a something like no innate what do you call potential. That is what you are telling.
yeah, it could be that, or
Okay.
maybe the curiosity about those things is not propelling enough to make the effort for that. Like if the curiosity for something is very high,
Yeah.
then you will make a lot of effort to try to come to the end point of that, or keep going on that path. Like that's why research people, like many research people, are very curious about things, and then they keep doing more and more research, and then they write research papers and all that. So that whole flow goes because of that curiosity. So in the same way, if this curiosity is there but it's not developed enough or it's not strong enough, then it just stays as a curiosity and it doesn't lead to any effort to try to get the answers to those questions.
So thank you, Arjun. I love to listen to you every day, but the time slot what you have fixed is 7:30 to 8:30 is my lunchtime. All the students, everybody else in this thing. So very often I miss you. So thank you, Arjun. Thank you, thank you.
Nice discussion, Arjun. Arjun, if you permit and if you feel comfortable, you can close the session now.
Yeah.
Right, so that we can continue the discussion further next week.
Yeah. So one homework or something which we can do,
Yes,
that we can look at our desires, thoughts, expectations, try to make a list of our desires, and then after you make the list of the desires, then you can try to look at where each desire is coming from. Like you could make a list like this, see, something like this, where you make a list of all these different things which you may have in mind, that you want to achieve something or you want to get something or whatever it could be. And then look at why you want that desire. And then after that, look at where it's coming from. So you can just look at this example, like suppose you want to earn money, and the purpose of that earning money is to have favorable sensations, then it would be, I mean, like you can just look at whether it's coming from preconditioning, sensation, or natural acceptance. Look at all your desires, whichever you have, make a list of them. And in the next session, we won't ask you to share your desires. We'll just ask you to share the percentage of desires coming from each of these three. Like, suppose you have 10 desires and 7 of them are coming from preconditioning, 2 of them are coming from sensation, 1 is coming from natural acceptance. So then you can make a percentage. So then we'll just discuss that, and then we'll see which desires are, the right desires, and which desires are something which we feel are right, but they are not really going to help us. So we'll just explore all these things once you make the list and once you are able to identify them, where they're coming from, and so on. So we'll meet in the next session, and till then, we'll close now.
yes, nice, Arjun. And it will be an interesting discussion next week if we do prepare the list and then segregate it accordingly.
Right. And many of these lists, I mean, in this case, we don't want to ask people to share the list if they're not comfortable, because
Yes.
there are so many of these desires which are deep down inside us, which we ourselves may not know about, or we are uncomfortable to share. Like many times we feel that we have a certain desire, but we don't know why we have it, and we don't want it also.
Rightly said, Arjun.
So because of that, it becomes a little bit personal also, where we have certain desires.
Arjun, can I share actually?
But then they're there inside. Yeah.
Arjun, but with the students, we should actually, they will write their own desires, but whether it is preconditioning, sensation, or natural acceptance, what you have written over here, it would be better if we discuss this thing and go to the next session. Because many students, they might be hearing for the first time. So they can relate, money you have written, physical facility to take care of the body. So it is for the natural acceptance. So that explanation will make them more clear, no?
Right. Now
So
the time is up. Otherwise,
and then they can explore themselves, their desires, where it is going.
Right. Actually, it was planned for discussion
Today, I understood today. No issue. But I think this we need to explain. They may not have idea.
Yeah.
whether
That's,
it is.
yes, Priya Didi, that's perfectly fine, Arjun. I think they can, the student can just make a list of desires, that's it. And then once discussed, they can just segregate it, and then we can further, have a discussion on the same. So this is a nice idea.
Yeah.
Because there are almost 10
Yes.
students. Actually, in the name, student is
Okay,
not
very
written,
nice,
but
very
so
nice.
we are clear. But I think I don't think they are clear.
Yes, yes, that's perfectly all right. So as proposed by Priya Didi, I think Arjun will continue with our session, and then maybe the students, if they pen down their desires, and then thereafter the discussion, they can just take a pause and then segregate it, and then we can take it up for discussion.
Right. So for now, we can just make a list of the desires.
Yes,
Right. Yeah. we
that's
could-
fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with this, I think, Arjun, I must thank you, and Shubharatri, good night to all. And we'll meet again next Wednesday with
Yes.
this interesting discussion that has been going on. And it will be highly appreciable if the students participate equally in the discussion, be vocal, just raise your hand so that a mic can be provided, and then you can talk it out, So Arjun is just Arjun Bhaiya for you people. So you can openly talk it out with him and discuss things. And as we say, that no question is irrelevant at all, and every question needs to be responded to. So don't feel hesitant, dear students. You can just openly put up your questions either in the chat, or it will be good if you just unmute and speak it out. Just raise your hand so that we can have an audio facility for you, a mic for you, and then you can just speak it out. So that will be more communicative and a two-way interaction, and interesting to hear the students as well. So with this, I thank every participant and Arjun for taking up the session and proposals for each one of us, and all those who put up the discussion, communicated and participated in further exploration, and helping the others also explore the same points intensely. So with this, thank you so much, and good night. We'll meet again next Wednesday.
Namaste, everybody. Namaste.
Namaste. And do join the Friday
Namaste.
session also on holistic
Yes,
health.
Namaste.
certainly,
Namaste.
certainly.
Namaste.